Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior. That was done by a DJ. There's 7 layers of sound in there. Does anybody care about that? Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. Tom Dutta like butter here. And very excited. We got a great show planned for you. Couple announcements up front. First of all, what are we doing here? We are live streaming. This is the next generation in podcasting. You know, somebody said the word podcast come from the iPod. That's kind of gone. We are now shows. So we're the Quiet Warrior Show. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Hey, if you can help us out, give us a subscribe and a like on the channel. That helps the analytics of YouTube share this amazing story we're going to hear from a guest in just a few minutes. I have in my hand here another book. I love this book. One thing I like about it is it's got this satiny cover. It's a great read, and it's by Martha B. Boone, a third-time returning Quiet Warrior to the show. Martha signed this and sent it to me. It even comes with a little bookmark. Shiny objects. I don't get turned on my little things, but I do actually. And so let's tell you a bit about Martha, and then I'm just going to bring her on. So I'm at the back of the book. There's a great little bio about the author. Martha B. Boone, MD, was a surgery resident and urology resident at Tulane, and trained at Charity Hospital in New Orleans from 1985 to 91. She retired from the practice of urology after 35 years to travel and write. She's the author of The Big Free, The Unfettered Urologist, and she lives in Atlanta suburb with her husband, Jesse, and this book is called Mother Charity. So welcome to the show, Dr. Boone. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here today.
Yeah, it's just awesome. So you've been doing some traveling. You've been around. Where were you at yesterday, and where are you at today?
So I was lucky enough this past week to do a book event in New Orleans, which was sponsored by Tulane Medical School and Blue Cypress Books. And we had so much fun. It was like an old home week. A lot of the gentlemen that I had trained with and some of my professors came out, and we were able to kind of relive some of our glory days at Charity Hospital. So it was a lot of fun. And now I'm back home in Roswell, which is a suburb of Atlanta.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I love the background there. I see the book on that side there. I think you've got the book with you. Hold it up. Let's see the author holding it up. Beautiful.
Ah!
Everybody.
This is the hardest part of the show.
Yeah. Hey, on that note, would you trust this lady with a scalpel in her hand? I'm just kidding. All right, what a beautiful book. I'm going to put something else up on the screen. I'll get right at it. You've been with us a couple times, so everybody, we've heard the story of Martha, about her background, the stories of the challenges, the trials, tribulations in her own career and life. Today, we're going to focus on this new adventure. So there's the book cover. For those on the podcast listening, you can't see it, but we're looking at the cover. So just describe. It's very interesting. Describe what we're seeing there and why you did that book.
So Charity Hospital was destroyed as a hospital by Hurricane Katrina in 2005. And many of us have a great deal of strong feelings about the hospital and, are upset that it's probably never going to be a functioning hospital again. And so Charity has a lot of different names. Some call it the Big Free, some called it the Big House. One of the favorite names was Mother Charity. So my first book was entitled The Big Free, and this book is entitled Mother Charity. So we see a young female surgeon to the left with a worried look on her face. She's a little insecure, wondering if she's going to measure up. And then we see the daunting Art Deco Charity Hospital building in the background. And then on the right, we see surgical instruments, and we see a strand of pearls. And in both of my novels, the pearls are a bit of a talisman for this young woman. They were given to her by her grandmother, and she wears them throughout both books. They become stained with blood, and she moves the blood-covered pearls to the back of her neck when she's going out, and she knows that that part of her life is there, but the people who are not involved at the hospital don't know because the pearls on the front look clean. And then when she's in the hospital, she turns the pearls back around because everybody knows that if you're working in a trauma suite, you're going to get blood everywhere. So it's a little bit of a talisman. And so I really like the way they did the book cover. I think it kind of brings out points.
Oh, wow. Just wow. And everybody, just for a moment, you'll go back and watch that part of the show. It's a nugget. There's teaching moments there. Isn't it kind of cool to hear an author's voice attached to their book? I just love that. First of all, what you just told us is so extraordinary and awesome. I mean, honestly, I'm a writer. To have that kind of thought around the pearls, it blows my mind. Talk for a minute. I'm interested in that. How do you come up with something like that? Was that an idea that came through collaboration, or just through the experiences in the operating room, and you just said, "Hey, that's got to be like that"?
It came through my experiences working there. When I showed up, I was so naive that I didn't realize that I couldn't wear my grandmother's pearls in the trauma room. It didn't occur to me that I was going to have blood all over me. I mean, in retrospect, that was kind of stupid, but at the time, I didn't really think about that. And the first time that a patient died, I remember being in the bathroom, and I reached up and I felt the blood on my neck and on my pearls. And I took them off, and I was crying and trying to scrub the blood off the pearls. And I looked down at them and I thought, these are never going to be the same. And I thought several times about having them restrung or cleaned. And I was like, no, I earned this. And so it became almost a ritual, to put them on, to go to the hospital. And then during times when I was dressing up and I knew other people would not be able to understand, my gosh, she's got brown stains on her pearls, I would just turn them around. And in the world of surgery, at the time that I was there in the 80s, it was a very rough and tumble kind of world, and there were very few women. And trying to hold on to my femininity in the midst of a world that was about 98% male was a little challenging for me. And I think the pearls were something I could reach up and touch and remind myself of a kinder, softer, sweeter world that was not evident in the midst of the trauma work.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm inspired. My mind's going in a journey elsewhere right now about still stuck on these pearls. I mean, they open up so many great conversations about, I'm even visualizing in the OR and a surgeon wearing that. It brought to mind when I read the book, and I love the book, and I'll be releasing a 5-star review for it, everybody, so we'll talk about that later. Martha, when you wrote this as a novel, your other books we had you on to talk about, tell us why, from an author perspective, why a novel? And the deeper point of view is, why did you write this book?
So years ago, I started out trying to write a memoir. And I realized that to protect everyone's anonymity, particularly the patient's, that it really had to be a novel. And so in this book, absolutely everything in the book happened. Now, it didn't all happen to me, and it didn't all happen at one hospital, but it's all true. It all happened to everybody. And my first book I wrote to process my emotions because I still had so much angst and pain and excitement left over from my times at charity. And the second book I wrote as a gift to the people who were there, because what I learned with the first book as I went around the country talking about it, that there were so many people that Charity Hospital had touched, so many nurses, so many people that had been patients there, all types of people who had trained there, people who were born there. And so it struck a nerve with so many people. And so I wrote the second book basically as a tribute to all the people who really knew what Charity Hospital was about.
Yeah, and Katrina, what year was that again that destroyed the hospital?
2005.
Goodness gracious. I thought I knew everything about the story and this background, but I read somewhere that this hospital, is it for people who don't have medical insurance? Or there's something I read about that. Or is that just, did I misquote that?
No, it was for everybody. I mean, it served the whole community, but it was, Louisiana had a very large charity hospital system, and this was kind of the mothership.
Yeah, incredible. Going back to stories. So this is all about stories. And tell us about why stories. And then just give us an example of one that'll inspire the listeners or the viewers to maybe grab the book.
Well, my favorite archetype, my favorite type of plot line is the hero's journey. And I like the way it's described by Joseph Campbell in his mythology writings. You have an ordinary person, just somebody who's just doing a regular life, and then they're given a challenge. Something big happens to them. And then they have to decide, am I going to rise to the occasion, or am I going to be afraid and not rise to the occasion? And then throughout that process, they get detractors or people or situations or life events that are trying to thwart their efforts. But they also get mentors and helpers. And then they make a choice. They go along the path. All kinds of crazy things happen to them, positive and negative. But the most interesting thing about the hero's journey is that the hero or heroine is going on both an internal journey and an external journey. So they may be fighting a system or fighting a villain or whatever, but on the inside, they may be fighting their own insecurity or their own weaknesses or whatever, their issues are. And so the hero's journey ends with either the hero or heroine winning or accomplishing whatever they hope to accomplish or not. But either way that it goes, they are changed and the environment is changed. And so that structure of a story is fascinating to me. So whether you're a patient who gets a cancer diagnosis, you're an ordinary person, and all of a sudden, boom, you have cancer. And you have to rise to the occasion or not. And you go through many things as you're going down that path. Or whether you're a young doctor who's for the first time recognizing man's inhumanity to man and trying to decide, oh my God, can I take this emotionally? Can I really do this? Both of those things are a type of a hero journey, which is my favorite story way.
Thank you. I was smiling. I think you know a bit about my passion for the hero's journey. And in fact, I don't do this on camera very often, but I'm just going to show something here, see if I can bring my other camera on. This is live, so I'm taking a vulnerability risk here, but I might not be able to see it. But probably too hard. There's a bit of a tattoo on my shoulder there. Oops. Push my mic away. See that? Anyway, it's hard to see, but it's actually the hero's journey narrative by Joe Campbell.
Oh,
and yeah, and I came across that just like you, and to me it actually reflected my life, because my life story comes from beginnings that were troubled as a child, and you've taught us a lot about hero's journey in this book. What I like about what you do when you tell stories is you use humor. And we had some fun on the last show. If people go back and look at that one, go find that, everybody, the last 2 episodes. But you use this sense of humor. Sometimes I call it dark sense, or sometimes just an unexpected puns, quips, whatever. Describe why you use humor, because your personality is wonderful. I think that's just amazing because it's such a difficult field you're in. But why use humor in the stories at times? What does that do for it?
I think anybody who's worked, in the military or the police or the emergency room, everything is just so shocking. It's not the average citizen's daily experience. And so we develop a world of dark humor to keep from going insane, because so many of the things are so hideous that they're almost funny. And so we have to learn to laugh at ourselves, and we have to learn to laugh at the situation. And it's nothing more really, I think, than a coping mechanism. And in my writing, when I've gone through the editing process, both the editor and the publisher have asked me to take some things out because they've told me that it's just too much for the general public. And a lot of times it will be either a hospital event that happened that was really horrifying, or it'll be some crazy dark humor. I mean, we had t-shirt. I'm sorry I hope nobody's offended, but we had t-shirts in the emergency room for a while that said, "The life you save may take your own." And it was because we were in the middle of the drug wars in New Orleans, and, someone would come in shot up, we would save them. And then, we might get mugged by their friends on the way trying to get to our car. So we had these t-shirts that said, "The life you save may take your own." And I mean, to anyone outside of that environment, that probably seems particularly crass, but it was a coping mechanism for us.
I don't think it's crass at all. In fact, everybody, what do you think? And send me a chat or when you watch his back comment on the show, that I think it humanizes what you do. I mean, that little nugget there, Martha, that you just said about afterwards, you described the situation, then it blows my mind that if I'm putting myself in the hero's journey, in your shoes, you're walking to your car and you've got this in your mind. Many of us don't understand the price that surgeons pay. Honestly, many people just don't think about that because they don't know. And so I think it's wonderful. We're going to have some fun and maybe get you do a little reading out of the book in a minute to illustrate something. But I wanted to just talk about the storytelling piece from a neuroscience perspective. If you don't mind, I'm a geek with neuroscience. Everybody, Martha got a promotion. I posted the show and called her a neurologist. And she's actually the surgeon urologist. But if you hang around with a guy like me who fell on his head in 2018, broke his brain, I'm all about neuroplasticity. And I learned a lot. And so I just want to share this with you for the audience sake, not for yours, because you're so smart, that in the brain, when we're hearing narrative or story, when we're hearing story, everybody, stories generally take a general format. There's a protagonist that comes into the story. So you heard Martha, if she's telling her story, she's the protagonist. If she's telling a story of a character, they're the protagonist. Okay, you follow me? As we start telling that story, there becomes cortisol starts releasing in the brain. Cortisol can put us on a state of alert. It's a stress chemical, especially if the story has things that are really difficult or challenging. And when cortisol releases, we're on the edge of our seat, right, Martha?
Right.
In our sympathetic nervous system, basically, it's the smoke detector that comes on to make sure we're safe. So I'm literally reading your book and I'm on the edge of my seat. Cortisol's flooding, and it's not meant to be flooding for a long time. It can lead to distress. And then comes something in stories that are called enmity. It's something that universally we all just can say we hate that. Could be an enemy or something, right? Patient dies on the table. Gosh, we all would not like that. If you just follow this, and I'll get to the end of this in just a minute, everyone, if you're reading a book or watching a movie and it's dark, it's deep, stress, what happens is the body or the brain just can't handle anymore. We need to release, we need to step back and, I can finally breathe, and then we can come back for more. So here's how you do it and how Martha does it so well in her writing style. What comes along is when you're in that state of stress, comes along a quip of humor or something that just makes us chuckle or laugh in our heads, makes our brain stop, makes it release. And then comes something called hope. When hope comes, hope is usually something positive. Another chemical floods the brain called oxytocin. They call it the love chemical, which actually makes you feel joy and happiness. So you can actually write stories and hack the brain to go through this roller coaster. And what I love about it, and I know I'm going on about this for a reason, because I'm actually promoting your book big time because it's one of the better ones. I was reading another book and the author didn't do that. And it was painful to read it. I could barely stay with it. So now that you've heard my little neuroscience explanation, thank you for writing in that style. So are you ready to do a little author reading for us?
Sure.
All right. So we've talked about this offline. While you get ready, tell me when you're ready. I'm just going to do a quick full screen of you. And before you start reading, just when you start reading, just hold up the book again and tell us the title and then introduce what you're going to read. So everybody, we're with Martha Boone, and we're going to full screen her, and she's going to do a little author reading for us. So Martha, just tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Welcome to the virtual stage, Dr. Martha B. Boone, with her latest book, Mother, Charity, an Author Reading.
Okay. So I'm going to read the dedication to the many people who worked at Charity Hospital in New Orleans over its 66 years at 1532 Tulane Avenue. It's remembered as one of the largest hospitals for uninsured people in America. We who were there lovingly remember it as one of the best trauma centers in America. Charity was a training ground for greatness. We did everything with nothing. If you were there, no one need explain it to you. If you weren't there, probably nobody can explain it to you. These are our stories. May we laugh and cry and remember the joy of a job well done. And then a little description of the book. Evolving from a naive girl to a competent female surgeon, Elizabeth has survived the first round of surgical training. What happens next will change her or the hospital forever. After barely surviving her first 6 months as a trauma intern at Charity Hospital, Dr. Elizabeth Roberts is exhausted from the long hours, senseless violence, and breakneck pace. Despite the tough experience, she has grown to love New Orleans, its food, culture, music, and people. But now she must endure the hardest rotation in the hospital, led by her nemesis, who doesn't think that Elizabeth even belongs in the world of surgery. Navigating the brutal and exhilarating world of trauma surgery, she wants to do her duty, but has bitten off more than she can chew. It's great training for a surgeon, but the emotional toll on a previously sweet young Southern lady may be too much to bear. Once the young doctor discovers what she has to give up to overcome her challenges, the question arises, will she continue to pursue her dream? If so, at what cost?
Okay, wow. I can give you a virtual applause there. Everybody, that's pretty inspiring. I've got the book. I'm just so lucky because you sent me this. I was bragging about it up front, but there's the back of the cover. And again, it's such a nice feel. It's a satiny cover. I really like that. But when you read that last part there, it encapsulates, it really describes the book. And I think everybody, I'd like you to do a shout out and ask you to go grab the book and read it. And of course, Martha, you know this, that our work's not known as authors unless people write reviews. So connect with Martha. She'll tell you at the end how to do that. Post a review on Amazon, Goodreads.com, wherever she needs that. And it actually helps the sales reps in the bookstores and the buyers get excited. Plus the analytics, right, Martha, of the Amazon, they see activity on the book and they actually tend to show it more.
Yeah.
Wonderful reading. How does it feel reading on a camera? You're so good at it.
Yeah, I guess I've done it a bit, so it's kind of not that big of a deal.
Okay. You've done, yeah.
By the time you get to a third book, your writing has gotten a little bit better. When I would read from my very first book, I would go, "Oh, that could be better," and I would be like, critiquing, while I was reading, I was going, "This could be better. That could be better." I now I've kind of developed a style, and I guess I'm satisfied enough with it.
Yeah, your style is great. And it does come from practice. And everybody, that's a little nugget too that Martha's teaching us. If you're doing public speaking, people think, wow, she's so good. The truth is we're all good, but it takes practice. And all your appearances, book signings, you're just really, really good at it. I want to say thank you for that. There's a little bookmark that comes with it. And I notice on your bookmark, it has all of your books. And then it's got your feeds for following you. So everybody make sure when you get the book that you check out the other ones. I want to shift gears a bit because I've been thinking about your story has gone from, I don't like using the word retirement because sometimes people think when you retire, you don't do anything. But you've shifted. I think the last time I had you on, you talked about that. I want to throw something out there. A lot of people who work, they define their lives around their careers, right, Martha? It really is what you do. It's a part of you. And in my work I'm doing now with my doctoral degree, I'm studying masks and identity. And so a lot of people I've talked to, especially on my show, when they retire or leave something that's been a part of them, sometimes there's depression, sometimes there's anxiety, sometimes there's just a feeling of being lost. I think I know your secret sauce, why you're smiling and you're so energetic and positive despite having shifted to post work in your profession. But why don't you tell us that? How do you stay mentally healthy, and how has that shift been for you? What do you do to keep that joy and happiness in your life?
So after I retired, I had planned to do extensive travel, and everything happened with COVID. And so there was almost 2 years between when I quit working and when I actually got to do what I had quit working to do, which was to travel extensively. And during that time, I really had a lot of quiet time to look at myself and to really kind of see, who am I? And I realized my biggest driving force is to learn. And so I started going down all these rabbit holes. I really love science and I love basic science. And so I started reading a lot of things that were outside of my field that I had never had time to read before. And I just started building on that. And the things that I miss the most about my career, I really miss the teamwork of being with the nurses. And I loved, surgery, because someone comes in with a difficult problem, you fix them and they go home and they're better. And it was very like immediate gratification. And so I had a hard time filling those two spots because, when you're retired and you don't have grandkids, you've got to kind of structure yourself. And like right now, I'm taking a screenwriting course. I had a bunch of jokes played on me, I guess. Things started coming into my email about, we want to make your book into a movie, which, every author hopes for. And so from all over the world, these scams were being generated, just call us, give us your credit card, turn your book into a movie. And so I kept, deleting these things. And I thought, you know what? I can turn my book into a movie. So I started trying to figure out how to do a screenwrite. I read a couple of books on it, and I was like, well, this is harder than it sounds. And so I signed up with this gentleman named Mr. Luker, Michael Luker, who had actually worked with Steven Spielberg. And so he's teaching a screenwriting class. And so now I've gone back to being a student, and I'm studying screenwriting, and I have homework. And so for me, it's been to keep, mentally challenged and to be continually learning, because I figured out that was the biggest part of my personality. And in order to be able to do that, you have to be physically healthy. So I started really paying attention to what I eat, and how it makes me feel. And I've been surprised as an older person that I actually need much more exercise than I needed when I was younger. And so getting a variety of exercise, which makes me physically more functional, actually stimulates my brain. And, with the neuroplasticity things that you were talking about earlier, exercise is so important to keeping our brains healthy. So between trying to have good food and doing a lot of exercise and stimulating my mind, I'm doing it.
Well, that little video clip could just be a talk or a lesson in its own about transitioning into retirement. Everybody, we're here with Dr. Martha B. Boone, the author of Mother Charity, her third book and novel. And I think there's a lot of things. I just want to share what you invoked in my brain about learning. So congratulations on the curiosity about the screenplay. We've got connections there and stories we could share, but I'll do that privately with you, because I've been exploring that for my own work as well. I love what you said, and we learn from you. Watch out, everybody, for those scams, right, Martha? Because I actually had a person on my show who spent, can't tell you exactly how much, but it was almost, it was five figures, mid five figures, only to find out that it was lost to a scam. It's just crazy.
They're very sophisticated.
Yeah. Now, if you're comfortable, for me personally, and if you want, we can put it in the show notes. But this course you're taking and the source of it, if you're interested in sharing that, we can put it in the notes. But I'd like to know that as well to learn. But going back to mental health, that always made me wonder, reading your books and about your career. Most people who aren't surgeons have no concept of mental health. But thank you for sharing with us some of the things that are so important about diet and what happens in the brain with learning. I learned that going through my own recovery from my brain injury, Martha, that because I was ruminating at home when I couldn't really get out when I was, this was from my concussion years ago. But did you know you learn, but each time you learn something new, your brain releases dopamine. The dopamine system is the source of motivation, and it's like a rush of cocaine almost. If you read, there's a really good book out there, if you don't mind me saying it. It's by another doctor. It's called The Dopamine Nation, and it's by an MD. It changed my mind in understanding how we're motivated, and you can actually, Martha, in that book, learn how to hack that system and actually be competitive and more successful in many, many ways. But I like that when you're taking a course, everyone, we're hearing Martha taking a course and she's learning. So your brain, along the way to the reward, which might be the screenplay, your brain's releasing all this dopamine little hits there. So that's really cool. Tell me about your diet. You talked about food. No more milkshakes in it, or I'm not assuming you did.
So as a medical doctor, particularly in America, we don't learn a lot about diet. I know what you need to eat if you've had 75% of your body burned I know what people need to eat in disease states, particularly on chemotherapy or something like that.
Yeah.
But just a normal person walking around, I was pretty ignorant about what I should be eating. And we've gone through so many fads in America. I mean, I remember when we thought an egg was the worst thing in the world for you and nobody would eat an egg. And then we went on the high carbohydrate, eat a lot of pasta diets before you go running. I mean, we've had a lot of insanity around nutrition. But I think what I've done is I've learned to really pay attention to my body and recognize that not everybody needs to eat the same thing. I think my biggest recommendation is if it comes in a box and you have trouble pronouncing it, don't eat it.
Don't eat the box or don't eat the ingredients. I love that. So simple.
Yeah. And I've also learned that the more brightly colored foods are the things we should be eating. So when you go through the grocery store, if the food has a bright color to it, it's probably something you should eat. And I've learned for myself that I have to be really careful with the carbs. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to do a total keto diet or, some of these things are just a little bit too much. But I think for me, I figured out that I need more protein than I used to need and fewer carbohydrates. And I think for all of us, the less sugar and, less calories.
Yeah. It's interesting because when you were saying something before, you said something to the fact that you didn't realize you needed more exercise when you retired. What do you mean by that?
So before I retired, I would operate in a 40-pound lead apron. And I didn't really realize how much that challenged my core every day.
Wow.
And so when I quit working, I quickly put on, 5 pounds, 6 pounds, 7 pounds. And then I started realizing, oh my gosh, I've got to do more. So I really learned that I needed to do more weightlifting, which I've been doing now 3 to 4 times a week. And I needed different types of cardio. So I swim one day, I row one day, I do the elliptical one day, I do the bike one day, and I mix in weights in there. So amount of time spent doing cardio needs to be more because I'm not running around the hospital and, doing all the things I was doing before. And as we age, we lose both bone density and muscle as just part of the aging process. And so the only way to really combat that is to eat a good high protein diet and to do actual weightlifting. So I've been doing more of that.
Well, good for you. I mean, it's remarkable. There's another nugget. Imagine everyone, a 40-pound vest. Wow. It reminds me of not the vest, but my story when I had my brain injury. I think I told you last time. I went to Costco for 2 years as a night stalker. Then from being a business owner and a C-level leader to stalking at Costco. And I had this tracker watch, and I would do 18,000 steps a shift. And Martha, I lost 40 pounds. Like, people are saying, what are you doing? But it reminded me when I became sedentary and left there, because I just couldn't deal with the light sensitive. When I left there, my weight started creeping back up. And the other thing they scared me with, especially when I was at a neurologist, they said, use it or lose it. If you don't use your neural pathways, they shrink. So basically what I'm saying, everybody, and what Martha's kind of talking about in a different way, is your brain, neuronal pathways in your brain, they kind of make you think, feel, and do. They make you live and do what you do. If you're not out taking courses and learning, so you leave a job, you're talking all the time, right, Martha? You're doing stuff all day. All of a sudden you stop doing that, those neuronal pathways about speech tend to start disappearing. The same I heard from my own neuroplastician when they dealt with my vestibular damage. They said to me this, I'd like to know your opinion, but they said that the number one thing with seniors falling is not the fact that they is why they fall. And why they fall is because in the bottom of our feet, we have all these nerves that are senses that feel. And as we get older, the brain starts getting latent, so it slows down. So the signaling from the nerves to the brain, it's slower. So, for example, I'm walking through my living room. True story, Martha. I'm walking through my living room. This is years ago when I was quite ill, and I started to fall, and I didn't stop myself from falling fast enough. So what they told me is, Tom, what's happening is all your life, you've been wearing socks and walking, and you were sedentary. Those nerves figured out you're going to fall, and then so they're signaling to the brain, what do I do? And the brain should say, put your arm out, or take that foot, put it here to stabilize. But the brain's latent because something's changed, and those nerves are starting to disappear. So they said if you take a sponge, which they gave me, it's a exercise sponge, you can stand on it just for 3-4 minutes and stare ahead. And once you get comfortable standing on it, feet apart, then lift one foot and stand for 3-4 minutes. Then if that gets easy, close your eyes. And when I first did this, Martha, especially when I had vestibular damage from my fall, I was falling over. But they said this, which was remarkable. They said neuroplasticity is so powerful that if you just get that sponge and use it daily, even watching TV, 5-10 minutes, you will have the speed, neural pathways, all that stuff I was talking about, as if you're in your 30s.
Yeah.
And I'm sounding like I'm trying to be a doctor, but you got me so excited about this whole health thing. Everybody, that's just what I got out of that, Martha, is you got to do stuff. Go out and take a course, do the exercise. Way to go. We'll call you Iron Man Boone.
Well, this is going to sound stupid. I should be embarrassed to say this, but I'm not. I get on and off the floor 4 or 5 times a day. And I practice using one arm and using the other arm and trying to get up with no arms because I'm like, I don't want to be that one stuck on the floor. And when I'm brushing my teeth, I stand on one leg and flail the other arm around and kick.
Way to go.
While I'm doing the two, because I was always into multitasking anyway. I'm brushing my teeth and doing the 1 foot thing. I think it would probably be better if I just went ahead and did something like Tai Chi, because I think that really.
That's good.
From 1 foot.
But don't stop what you're doing. That is awesome. We'll just give you a little applause. Everything you just said is repeatable by everybody. And it's exactly what I was trying to get at. In fact, Anna and I, my wife and I were talking about this. We go do a lot of trail hikes. I know you and Jesse do stuff together too. And sometimes we'll catch each other leaning against the door, putting our shoes on. Ever since I started understanding about this whole thing about the neuronal pathways, and we purposely now say no. So now I can actually bend down, put on my socks, put on my hikers, lace them up, and get, like you said, get up off the floor if I'm leaning with no problem at all. And I'm going like, where'd that gone and what changed? Well, it's simply I started training, taking my system to the gym. So that's really cool. Here's a nugget to throw at you before I just want to say this before you jump back in. I saw somewhere a brain hack that if you brush your teeth with the other hand, apparently it's like a game changer. It changes the game in terms of your brain health. Sorry, you were going to say something.
The other thing that I think leads to falling is that our decreased vision. I mean, as we get older, our vision is just not as good as it used to be. I mean, even if you have cataract surgery or whatever it is, almost everybody has decreased vision. So when you're looking down to step off of a curve, your depth perception may not be as good as it was when you were younger. And so that combination of decreased feeling in your feet, that inability to kind of rebalance yourself and not being able to see as well, I think all of those things kind of lead to the possibility of falling. But I think keeping your muscles strong increases the chances that you'll be able to recover, if you do start to fall.
Yeah, thank you for those tips. Everybody, we're here with Dr. Martha B. Boone, the author of Mother Charity, the big free novel, and she's teaching us so much today. I have something exciting that we're going to do next. This is a new segment on the show. If you've seen some of the other shows lately, you might not be surprised, but we are going to go into imagining with AI. Now, you know what AI is.
Yeah.
And everybody, I fully embrace AI. Even in some of the work I'm doing, Martha, with a university in London, I mentioned my degree, doctoral, I'm 1 year into it. They don't know what to do with it because people are using it to write theses and things like that. I think AI is a tool that's there to use collaboratively, and there's a lot of benefits. You still have to do your own thinking. So are you ready to imagine with AI?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody, to Imagining with AI. And Martha, we went to AI and we said, AI, I want you to collaborate with me and create 3 images, 3 pictures of this wonderful woman named Martha B. Boone. And I gave AI your photograph. I uploaded it. And I said, all right, here's a bit about her bio, which everybody's heard about on the show. She was a surgeon urologist, And this was her life. And then she transitioned into retirement where she's doing this, this, and this. And then the future, I don't know what the future looks like, but what does the future look like for Martha with all the things she's doing now? What's she trying to do in the world? So this is what AI came up with. So drum roll, please. When I show you the picture, I just want you to take it all in, and then I'm going to ask you to give me one word, which is an emotion or a feeling that it evokes in you. Okay, so here we go, everybody. All right, Martha, during her active years, this is what AI came back with, as a practicing urologist and author depicted in a clinical setting with a white coat and medical book, showcasing her dedication to both medicine and writing. Thought or feeling, emotion, seeing that image?
I don't know why, but I feel a little sad, and I'm kind of taken aback by that.
Thank you. No, this is why we do this, because when Martha, you just gave us a gift. So I want you to hang on to that emotion, because this is real. That's reflecting back on a chapter in your life. And there may be reasons when you think about this, why going through that thought, there's some sadness. All right. Are you ready for the next one? Everybody, here we go for image number 2, which is Martha in her retirement, enjoying life and promoting her book, Mother Charity, shown in a relaxed setting, engaging with fans at a book signing or speaking event. When you're ready, one word, emotion, feeling.
Fun.
Fun. Now, I was having fun with AI. Just so you know, if you've never used it, there's an image creator. So I gave it a lot of stuff. I said she has this dark sense of humor. She's always smiling. And she's got this youthful look still, and blah 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 blah. So we're like, this is sort of an iteration. We're going back and forth, right? So I think it's just wonderful. So everybody, we're going on a journey here, and just think about this. Martha seeing her 3 steps that we're showing about this chapter of her life. The last one is one of the ones that I think is the most evocative, which is I asked AI, with everything Martha's done in her career and what all the information, what's the world look like in the future with Martha in it? When she's doing what she does? And check this out. You ready? This is what it came up with. Dr. Boone in a futuristic world, sharing her stories using advanced technology, depicted with holographic displays and engaging an audience with her humor and career anecdotes.
That's fascinating, because I had just been talking with the people at Tulane's Office of Development about how to keep people engaged in the world of what we've experienced with Tulane in the future. So that's kind of interesting.
Isn't that cool? So what would one emotion, feeling be that evokes in you? Because you're smiling.
It's excited.
Yeah, excited. All right. So, well, that's fabulous. So I'm just going to flip back here. Imagining with AI, we're with Dr. Martha Boone, and that was the career. And the evoked emotion initially of sadness and some feelings. And that was the next chapter, retirement, but not really, book signings and doing some work, sharing and stories. And I think you had a word there. I can't remember what it was. It was something really positive, I think. And then we said, what does the world look like in the future with this lady's body of knowledge and wisdom? AI and I talked back and forth, gave her, and this is what they came up with. And I think you said exciting. And noticeably, when you watch his back, look at the inflections in your face and your body language, on the screen, and you can see that journey going through. So we're going to give you a round of applause for imagining with AI. I hope you enjoyed that. You send me some feedback for sure. It's a new segment. We've been doing it for the last 4 or 5 episodes, and it's been really interesting to see what it evokes in the guest.
Yeah.
And pictures tell 1,000 words, right? So so you're just fabulous to do that with us. Well, we come down to the last part of the show, and I wanted to turn to a page in the book and ask you another quick question. I'm going to read something to you. This is, let's see if I can just show everybody I've got my other action cam on. My husband, this is page 344, my husband Jesse is always supporting me. He does 100 things per day to move our family forward. I could never ask for a better life partner. Putting you on the spot and honoring Jesse, tell us one of the things that he does in a day that keeps your family moving forward, or as many as you want. Just tell us about him.
Well, I have two stepdaughters, and my husband's almost like, I think he was a herd dog in a past life, because he's always kind of herding the three of us around to the next level. He's just kind of constantly watching the environment for our safety. None of us are too particularly good with directions, so he's always got a map in his head of where we are at any given time and how to get back to wherever it is we're trying to get back to. But he's kind of a Renaissance guy. I mean, he can cook, he can hunt, he can fish, he can ride a bike, he can sail a boat, he can scuba dive. And I'm more mentally capable than I am physically capable. So a lot of the things that I do, like kayak fishing, I wouldn't be able to do it without his assistance. So he's just always kind of helping move everything forward.
But they say something that was saying opposites attract, whether there's opposites or not. It's kind of cool to hear that. And how long have you guys been married?
Oh my gosh, I think about 18 years. He and I, we can never remember. Like neither one of us. I think it's about 18 years.
Well, that is pretty special. I think you should do a book on how to be a surgeon, have that kind of career, and be married for 18 years, and have that kind of support system. That's Anna and I have sometimes thought about trying to do our own book about, because we butt heads and we are opposites. I sound a lot like Jesse in terms of my Renaissance type of personality. And it just works. So congratulations and thank you for sharing with us your wisdom today. Last thing I wanted to ask you about before we give it to you to tell us where to get a hold of your work and all. On page 343, there was a gentleman mentioned. I thought it'd be worthy of just asking about it. My stories would have never turned into novels without the nudge of Dr. Norman McSwain. He was one of my mentors at Tulane Surgery and a legend of world of trauma surgery. What makes him a legend, and just tell us about him?
So if anybody wants to read about him, his name is Norman McSwain, McSwain, and his obituary is fascinating because he's one of the big founders of trauma surgery. If you've heard about this Stop the Bleed, he was the one that originated that. And he worked with our military and trained, a bazillion residents and students. But for me personally, he realized that it was time for women to be in surgery. And he realized that we had to be treated like everybody else, or we weren't going to be able to be as quality as the male residents. And so he treated me fairly, but he didn't treat me at all differently. And one of the things I really love about my training is Tulane was about excellence. They didn't care what race, color, creed, religion, sex, whatever else you were. They were hiring people for their excellence. And Dr. McSwain was promoting people for their excellence. And many years after I left my training program at Tulane, he was still my mentor. If I had a difficult case, I could call him and he would give me advice on how to manage it. 25 years later. And he is one of the ones who really inspired me to write my first book. I had been sending him stories about our times at Charity, and they were unedited, just little, stories he would stick beside his chair and read when he had time. And when Katrina destroyed Charity, he started pushing me. He said, we really had something special there. And we want to make sure that people don't forget what an amazing place Charity Hospital was, because it means so much to so many of us. But anybody who's out there listening and in the process of getting an education, you want to seek some good mentors, because that will be something that lifelong will help support you. And I do offer that to a lot of other people that are coming through the pipeline. So I've been enjoying doing some mentoring as I've been retired also.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you for honoring Dr. Norman McSwain, and people definitely will put it in the show notes. It's in the book. People can go and check that out. Sounds like a great human being. And we were talking before that we went live about your mentoring. I think you were telling me that you're doing through podcasting or Zoom, like virtual mentoring. Did you ever see yourself when you were in your profession saying, hey, in the future, I'm going to be doing that? Did you ever think that would happen?
I didn't think that would happen. And what I've been surprised about is, for me, as I age, I may have trouble calling up a word or, a complete sentence about a memory or whatever, but I have greater wisdom. It's like I can assimilate a large amount of information and figure out what it all means much quicker. And so, the younger people may be more innovative. I mean, they may be able to use AI or use technology better, but they don't know the whole lay of the land. And so it's been kind of interesting to combine their young, brains that can innovate with my wisdom of, hey, well, here's why that didn't work, and we tried that, and this is why it didn't work. So that's been kind of fun.
Yeah, I think that's a great message, everybody. Dr. Martha Boone, teaching moment on the show. Go back, listen to that. In one of the other interviews we did on this show with Martha, there was a chuckling part about a scene in the book where you were doing an examination for a young patient, and the mother was there, and you'll know the one I'm talking about, and you said something funny like her vagina was talking to you, and it's never been lost on me, that part. But it also, in that interview and reading your work, what you just said came out, that everyone there you're a surgeon and you know your stuff, and the next gens are coming in with stuff off the internet they've printed. They're educating themselves. They're challenging you as a doctor and forcing you to up your game, right? In terms of, and that's not easy to take, right? Especially some doctors have egos, some don't. I think you're balanced. That's probably kind of challenging. What was interesting about that whole thing there, sorry, I lost my train of thought, which happens with my short-term memory, and that's a sign that it's like it's time to start going to the last moment on the show to wrap up. Let me just do that again. 3, 2, 1. The next generations, what I think about with you, what you just said, is there's a saying I use: the difference between knowledge and wisdom is time. And everybody, Martha, you've just told us, but man, the stuff you've got in your brain, the stuff that's in there, that's why I think you're just amazing. If I'm in your shoes, I am shooting podcasts, I'm doing little videos, mentoring, I'm taping all that and putting it all together. You can hire people to create a course, but this is your library, your legacy that I see you leaving behind. And this is one of the things I want to stress to everybody, that people like myself who write books, podcasting, we're not just doing it for ego's sake. We truly, like I think you do, want to leave a legacy for the world. That there's my daughter who's 26, by the way, graduating from university, Martha. If she wanted to go into your field, she needs that wisdom. She needs that information. And that's the thing that we have on those generations. We may have wisdom. We may not have the latest techno minds. But what you have is you've done the road traveled. And that is just a blessing with all the work that you're doing. So tell us where we can get a hold of your body of work, your books, your anything at all.
So it's pretty simple. My website is www.marthaboone.com.
Okay.
And that has my books and most of my events. And then I'm on Facebook with just my name. And I haven't been on Instagram. That's something I probably need to do. And then I'm on YouTube. You can find me just, with my name, Martha Boone.
That's great. Everybody, we'll put that in the show notes. Please hold the book up one more time. Give it a last plug there. Mother Cherry. Yes, awesome. The third novel of the series. Get that book. Give it a review. Put it on Amazon. It's going to help out that story a lot. As we wrap up here, I like to do this on every show that you've been on, and I've got a little list of words. These are words, everyone, on my little paper. I write them as Martha talks. They're not scripted. That my wisdom is 30 years of executive leadership and work in the world. So I think I know a bit about when I spot leaders. So 4 words that define you, Martha. 1 is authority. An author is an authority. You are an authority on the work you're doing, particularly how you tell stories. Word number 2 is storyteller. I think you need to adopt that in terms of your moniker when you're putting your bio out. That's a skill, by the way, that many leaders, they don't know how to do it. You're really good at it. 3 is mentor, and we need more of you, so keep doing what you're doing. And 4, it's been there before on the list. It keeps coming up when I see you as trailblazer. Gosh, every time I see you, new book, mentoring people, using technology about the future. Way to go. Keep doing what you're doing. So congratulations. You are a quiet warrior, and we will follow you and have you back again in the future, I'm sure.
Thank you so much. You are so much fun.
And that word fun too. Yeah, you make me smile, and I need that in my life. So thank you, Martha. So on that note, everybody, if you can go to Martha's website and check everything out, connect with Martha to learn and grow, and do what she's taught you today, which is live that life that you desire and deserve, and honestly, live life the way you want it to be. Thanks again, Martha, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca.